Let's start another video. Apologies for being late. Didn't want to distract my roommate. And it's a snow day, so let's get this over with. So let's talk about theatrics. Now, naturally, as the world goes on, there'll always be those who make a mountain out of a molehill. Those who panic, those who shout a bunch of things, say, "Oh no, terrible things are happening, oh no." Even though it's something very basic. Could even be a turd on the road, there'll always be someone who's willing to make it into a big deal. It's just how people are, really. But there are limits, and in politics in particular, it gets ridiculous. For example, think about the common two-party system that we have in the United States, and to a lesser extent, exist in Europe. In the US, so much of it is just driven by some meaningless words. Commie, fascist. Not that these words don't have actual meaning. Communist, fascist, those are real political beliefs. But people throw them around so meaninglessly. It could not matter the face of the person, the identity. It's just meaningless. It's theatrics, really. You're saying, this person's a Nazi, this person's a fascist, a commie, a socialist. The freak doesn't matter at this point. Genuinely. In what way do you think those words matter? Because sure, on a technical level, they have a definition. Do these people fit those definitions? Not really. For example, let's take Bernie Sanders as a start. Is he an open socialist? Yeah. He literally calls himself a democratic socialist. But is he a communist? Well, that depends, but first let's take a look. Is he a Stalinist? No. What about an anarchist? No. So he's not a communist by the traditional definition. So the only way you could call him one is if your definition is melted down to the point of just socialist who I dislike. Really not that complicated. Bernie Sanders is not someone I particularly like, but let's face it, he's not a commie. An idiot, maybe. Economically illiterate, oh, absolutely. But he's not a communist. Yet people call him that. Why? It's theatrics, it's the communists, drumming up all the meanings of that word, associating with all those old times and the idiots that ran those old communist states. And what do you get? Pointless theatrics. That, as stated, doesn't mean I agree with him in the slightest, no. But he's a left-wing populist and a socialist. Beyond that, well, he just plays his role like any good pawn does for their ideology. Let's take another example. Donald Trump. He is a good example. Is he right-wing? Yes. Very much so. A populist? Yeah. He is both of these things. Fascist, though? Or Nazi? I can answer the last one easily. No, he's not. As for this one, again, break it down. Is he like Franco? No. He's not even a flangist. What about being corporatist in economics? Again, no. He isn't a fascist. Again, you can disagree with his policies. For example, he is definitely a protectionist. And you can say, for whatever reason, like I would, that it is wrong. Protectionism is not good for the economy. That's just how it is. But you can't call him a fascist because of that. Nor could you call his attempts at keeping order fascism. Now you could call him authoritarian all you freaking want and you wouldn't be inaccurate. But that's how authoritarians work. That's how government works. You use your authority to enforce the laws. That is literally how authoritarians operate. That is how every single president of the last 4 has operated. Obama was literally called the deporter-in-chief because of how many people he sent back. And Bush, freak. What do we even get? Patriot Act much? And of course there's Biden. All this to say, welcome to reality. The theatrics are funny sometimes. It's funny to hear someone be called a commie out of the blue and you're just like, what? Like, there's a certain comedy to it when it's just unexpected and random. It's like, oh, great, we're putting on the performance now. But reality does not align with this theatrics. It does not align with a little image you have in your head of what a fascist is or a communist is. There were some communists a few months ago, maybe, I don't remember the exact time period, who would straight up go and start helping people with their lawns, or help people pick up branches from broken trees. Were those communists suddenly not communists because they were helping people as individuals? No, they're still freaking communists, probably Stalinists if we're being real. But that fact does not change the fact that they help people. And simultaneously, the fact that a person happens to have left-wing beliefs does not suddenly make them one of them. And even if, let's say hypothetically it did, that does not mean suddenly you have to agree with everything, or disagree on everything. As stated, communists, hate them, do not agree with them politically. But they did a good thing, those communists, when they helped their neighbors. If Adolf Hitler took care of dogs, which he actually did, fun fact, I wouldn't hate him for that. I hate him for every single other thing he did, including the deaths of over 6 million people and the start of a war that killed tens of millions more. But I wouldn't hate him for the dog thing. If you're gonna disagree with someone, if you're gonna even hate them, especially if you're gonna hate them, know what they actually stand for. Don't just fall for the theatrics, the flair, these people are bad because I say so. Because again, it's theatrics, smoke and mirrors. It's just a look. It's not what is actually going on. And I guarantee you this. There's a reason people put on a show. There's a reason people make things look the way they want. It's because fundamentally, when you put on a show, you get eyes. When you put on a show, you can convince people of even the most dumb of ideas. Like that the hero is some random farm kid who just happened to pick up a sword the last week. Or that if we just do one magical thing, all the problems in the world will cease. It's fantastical. Shows are a distraction. Sometimes you can get good morals out of them, sometimes you can't. But regardless of what you get out of them, they're always there to hide something else. To hide the actors, the people paid to put on the show. And the people who always just so happen to not be targeted. Think about it. Who always is targeted when it comes to political satire? Why, it's the politicians, yeah? It's those people who say the dumbest things. Heck, one of our VP candidates previously said you could see Russia from Alaska, which you actually can in certain parts. And the immediate thing the satirists went with is, hey, I can see my house from here, as a person's looking over. Was that true? No. But it was a satire of the powerful person, not the millions of people who enabled that behavior. The millions of people who believe stupid things and were willing to vote for them or not. People love the theatrics. They love the idea that they can pin it all on one person. On Trump, on Sanders, on Soros, on any other person. But here's the thing. None of that would mean anything if people weren't willing to buy it. Trump would not be as powerful as he is if people weren't willing to vote for him. Soros would not be as powerful as he is when it comes to funding people if people weren't willing to accept the funding. That is true of everything. And so you shouldn't just think, oh, great, the theatrics again. Instead, think, who are the people willing to buy this? Because it's about an audience, the market. Who's willing to pick this up and say, you know what? Because Bernie said the words ABC, I'm going to vote for him in the polls. Or Trump said this, that, and so on, so I'm going to back him. And what are the ideas that they're backing? Look at the people supporting and the ideas behind them. If you can break one or the other, it's over. After all, an ideology only survives as long as it has supporters. And an ideology can only last when it maintains internal consistency. Ideas. Break them, the show doesn't work. No ideas, no show. Now, I won't deny there will always be those who prefer to hide. Let's face it, most people with money much prefer having politicians do their duking out than themselves. That's just reality. But if you really want to break the show, break the theatrics, target the audience and the principles. After all, who's watching a show? People. If no one shows up, then this show's over. No audience, no show. And if the script doesn't work, then no one's gonna freaking read it, unless they're paid. And again, that comes back down to attention. In the modern day, more than ever, we're in an attention economy. Attention and information has always been important, of course. But ever so often, you get more and more importance to it. For example, when the newspaper was introduced and became widespread, then television, and then color TV, and now social media. As things advance more and more, naturally information has become more and more important. Attention, more and more important. Now people can carry a project on personality alone. Remember all those Arnold Schwarzenegger B movies? It's a prime example. But that only works when there's attention, an audience, and ideas people are willing to buy into. Think about it. This pen means nothing if my hand isn't holding it. Might as well be a paperweight right now because I'm not touching it. This desk, useless if no one's taking advantage of it, actually using it for a purpose. The audience is the same with theater, with the attention economy. If no one's watching, no one's using the show to actually entertain or learn, then it dies. And the theatrics, this constant he said, she said, back and forth, word after word of nonsense. All of this dies when people stop paying attention. Or rather, stop giving attention to it. You can pay attention to other things if you want. Actual things like how the economy works, the history of our country, etc., etc. Things that matter. But if you don't pay attention to the theatrics, you can still get things done. A pencil pusher can still do good things, as can a person who helps the community. But you know what listening to theatrics does? Nothing other than give attention to some of the dumbest people I've ever heard speak on this planet. Well, except maybe a person I might have watched once on the side of the street. But that doesn't say much, because I barely heard their conversation. And so, let's face it, it's 2026. Our country has lived for over 200 years. And in that time, the theatrics has gotten so freaking stupid. Frankly, I would honestly prefer if someone called one of our people now a hermaphrodite or an atheist as an insult. At least then, it was somewhat entertaining. Now, this is just dumb. We've been through this nonsense before, through the theatrics. Let's learn from it and stop paying attention. If it works, works. So let's do it. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.